card that he has in the main deck is Pernicious Deed.
Yep. And that's okay. I mean, Pernicious Deed is one of the most powerful cards in the format, and happens to have a beautiful little interaction with Jace the Mind Sculptor, since it destroys, you know, creatures, enchantments, artifacts.
Pernicious Deed is definitely one of my favorite cards of all time. And we have this game underway, Island versus Island.
Dude, now we're at unlimited islands? Dude, these Legacy players are psycho.
And we have a polluted Delta out there for John Elden. Samuel Friedman playing an Underground Sea.
There's something about a whiteboarded Underground Sea that just, it's okay. Like, I'm pretty anti-whiteboarded cards, but you can't help but give a whiteboarded Underground Sea a pass.
Well, I vastly underestimated the value of a true black-bordered Underground Sea maybe about a year and a half ago. It's worth a lot more than I realized.
Yeah.
This whiteboarded one...
Underground Seas are worth more than Moxes now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Second Underground Sea.
Some of the Moxes anyway. Not Sapphire, probably. So, both players playing a very controlling game at the moment. Which could change in the blink of an eye as soon as a flurry of Vendilion clicks come down and reveal their information.
Vendilion Click at its best in a deck like this, where you might want to keep your mana open, but then if nothing happens, start putting a clock down. Snapcaster here.
Is this
that's straight up
a Snapcaster going
nothing.
raw?
Just out there as a
just out
a
here
bear.
grinding.
Fast bear, here he comes.
That's, I mean, isn't that wild?
That's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
I love to see all these Mishra's Factories too. Both players playing Mishra's Factory. Samuel Friedman taking it a step further and adding Creeping Tar Pit to his repertoire.
Creeping Tar Pit is one of those cards that, in Legacy, oh so rarely attacks, but generally the idea is that the cost of that coming into play tapped is worth just the option to attack at some point in the match.
Absolutely. Plus, I mean, it does fix your colors. And that ain't bad.
We have a fifth land here from John Elden. Swords to Plowshares taking care of Snapcaster Mage. And the kind of draw-go, let's hurry up and wait matchup going on here with Samuel and John.
I don't even think they're hurrying up to wait. I think they are taking their time getting to the waiting area. Shuffle your deck, look for some more land. The problem is both players are very, you know, like one of them has, on the right, Samuel Friedman has Flusterstorm and Spell Pierce for 5 of that type of business. And on the left, John has the full 4 Spell Pierce plus a counterspell. This is on top of cards like Force of Will. Both players don't want to just play out their Jaces because neither one wants to be the guy who walks face first into a Spell Pierce. What do you think about Legacy being a 4 Spell Pierce format?
You know, Spell Pierce is one of those cards that I always see it be really, really powerful, and for some reason it never works for me, so I just have this little frowny face about Spell Pierce, even though I recognize its raw power.
Is that another Snapcaster Raw?
Looks like it.
What a... Well, I guess that's one way to do it.
And on the other side of the world, John Elden recasting his Swords to Plowshares with his Snapcaster, getting a little bit more value.
Yeah. I don't even know what these people would do if they ever drew a Ponder or a Brainstorm.
They would have a lot of choices to make.
Another Swords to Plowshares for John.
This time knocking down a Mishra's Factory, or at least trying to. A big counterspell fight over the swords on the Mishras.
Yeah, interestingly, Friedman has 4 Force of Wills, 4 Spell Pierces, 2 Counterspells, 2 Inquisition of Kozilek's, a Flusterstorm, a Partridge, a Pear Tree, 3 Vendilion Clicks, 3 Snapcasters. It would be a disaster to play against these guys with combo decks. So, Friedman fighting over the Snapcaster Mage battle, or over the Mishra's Factory. Innocent blood. Snapcaster Mage bites the dust. I don't know about you, but I really like the chances of whichever one sticks Jace the Mind Sculptor first.
Jace the Mind Sculptor in these formats that include Force of Will is so much more powerful than Jace the Mind Sculptor is in the earlier days of Standard when the card was first printed. Just the ability to be able to drop the Jace and then tap out to do so, potentially protect it with the Force of Will, and then potentially find more Force of Wills to keep it protected.
So Friedman successfully draws out one of Elden's Spell Pierces.
Friedman incredibly aggressive here, and John Elden smiling a little bit about that, I think.
Come up to the stage, your event is ready to start. Once again, competitors for Standard Wigglebox number 1, come up to the stage.
Legacy, the format where people don't do anything? No. That's what they do. Nothing. So this time, Jace the Mind Sculptor with 2 mana open, avoiding the double pierce by drawing out 1 last turn. Elden debating his options. If he hardcasts Force Will, he could be walking face first into a Spell Pierce. Friedman sacrificing a fetch land. Seeing a blue instant in the near future.
Force of Will, just one of the favorite pieces of art for me in the history of the game. It just looks so awesome, I think.
It's pretty incredible. It's a little strange, the sheer amount of red going on, but it's beautiful.
Just thinking that was one of the comments that was always made about the card back in the day. Here we see another Force of Will to fight over this Jace. So Samuel failing to get the Jace to stick, it looks like, but...
Does get 2 cards out of his hand this time for it. But 3 for his 2. Problem is, now Friedman's tapped out, and if he lost this fight, there's no way he would win a fight if John's last card is a Jace. Oh wait, no, he did win the fight.
I thought we saw Jace
he had a Force of Will of his
counter
own.
Force. Okay, there was a Force. The final card of Force. Wow.
Friedman goes... Not really...
He pluses rather than brainstorms. And he uses the ability on himself.
Well, I mean, I like the doing it on yourself once you're at the point of using it. Just because his opponent has a fetch land there and he wants to make sure he gets value if his opponent plays a Jace of his own, but...
I would have liked to brainstorm there rather than a scry. We see a deed, perhaps? There it is, a deed.
Yeah, I think brainstorm in general is the play there, but if John had enough mana for Vendilion Click, then this line is completely respectable. So, Samuel Friedman, 6 Jace the Mind Sculptor. Not really sure. I guess John's theoretical way to get out of this is to play a Jace, and they trade, and then try to claw his way back in. But the deed has pretty much eliminated all other counterplay besides just Jace's trading. Jace the Mind Sculptor, definitely one of the cards that is in the Grizzlebrand, Snapcaster Mage sort of space where it's just it's like one of the premier cards in the format. You know, one of the most powerful things that you can do.
And an untap, yet another turn with the Jace. Usually this means that you're going to lock the game away. It's really hard to recover from a Jace sitting in play for more than a turn or 2 in these control matchups.
Dude, Jace the Mind Sculptor and Grizzlebrand illegal. Why did they even bother banning Necrobones? So what are we seeing out of the sideboard from John?
Another Wasteland against a opponent that's running 3 colors. A Vendilion Click to start end of turn fights. Sword of Feast and Famine as a means for Snapcaster to make a real dent in his opponent's deck. And then Flusterstorm to fight counterspell fights.
So everybody just tuning in, I'm Patrick Chapin with Adrian Sullivan. We're at SCG Detroit in the Legacy portion. Right now, Samuel Friedman has control of the game with the Jace. John Elden just tried to stabilize by playing a Jace of his own. However, Friedman had brainstormed enough to find a Force of Will to keep Elden's Jace off the table. Jace definitely the dominant card in this matchup, allowing him to cast Brainstorm, the best card in the format, every turn without paying any mana. John Elden's going to get Stoneforge Mystic a shot, see if he can go find a threat. Probably a Batterskull, but certainly possible that he'd want something else. No, it's going to be a Batterskull this game.
There it is.
The hope is that he can commit enough additional threats to the table to force Friedman to blow the deed, so that he's at least making some forward progress. But it's just hard when Friedman's drawing 2 cards a turn.
And the ability of that Jace is just... Oh, there's a Diabolic Edict on top of it all. Is that an altered Diabolic Edict? Looked a little bit strange. See a Brainstorm, then we see... sorry, a draw and then the Brainstorm from the Jace. Looks like a pair of lands might be being put on top of Samuel's library. And then a fetch land to shuffle those lands away. Not Ancestral Recall, but not so bad either.
Pretty darn close.
And the crack of the fetch land resets Samuel's library.
Friedman, plenty of mana to cast the spells, up to 8. But every land counts, because sometimes you're going to have to hard cast those Force of Wills and get into battles involving Flusterstorms and Spell Pierces.
Brainstorm once again. And what is this? A fetch land. And a pass.
So Friedman continuing to just nurture this advantage from this Jace the Mind Sculptor. Elden has to find some counterplay.
Relic of Progenitus.
Doesn't really do a lot, but at least it cantrips and helps him hopefully find a Jace. Jace just so brutal. I mean, it was a fantastic. I mean, it was the best card in Standard, but now that it's in Legacy, it's so much harder to kill. At least in Standard, everybody had creatures all the time, you know?
Yeah. And the support cards to protect your Jace are so much more powerful in Legacy.
Yep.
Round 6 here of 8. This is our first control fight that we've seen of the day here in Legacy.
Looks like Samuel Friedman, after sideboarding, is going to be picking up. He'll probably want another Flusterstorm. Kind of like Rook Relentless, just to be able to come from a different angle. You know, like it's sort of like Jace, but he might want Life from the Loam. Probably not, though. It depends on how many Wastelands he sees from his opponent. Thoughtseize is an option. I mean, it's fine against everybody.
Ooh, here we go. The first attempt. A Jace from John Elden is going to...
This is actually the second. They fought over one,
me.
yeah, a few turns earlier.
Pardon me. It's all blending together.
Yeah, the last one ended with Friedman force willing the Jace. This one, we'll see if Friedman has managed to assemble enough defense to hold off Jace again.
I hope with all those brainstorms he's found something. Brainstorm.
Found another brainstorm. Friedman demonstrating the time-honored tradition and legacy of drawing 3 cards and then putting 2 cards from his hand back on top of his deck. He lets the Jaces trade.
Wow.
Nah, this is a sign that he has another
Second
Jace in his
Jace?
hand. Yeah.
Number 4.
Or a reserve Jace.
What?
Wow.
no! This is a real game? Alright, we're really here. This is really happening. Back to life. Back to reality.
Umezawa's Jite on the table.
Umezawa's Jite has been called. Creeping Tar Pit attempts to make John Elden discard 1 card. Fails, instead does 3 damage. So Friedman, with a Creeping Tar Pit and a Mishra's Factory, is representing a 2-turn clock. Meanwhile, Elden has the Batter Skull that he's been saving for a while.
Does he tap? No, he's got 3 mana available, so the Pernicious Deed does not just...
Playing around Mana Leak.
Yeah. Playing a game to protect that Batter Skull.
Now it's interesting, if he gets sloppy and sacrifices his fetch land, Friedman can blow the deed in response.
Or we can go the other direction and have the deed go, and then a fetch land be responded to protect the Batter Skull at the end of the turn. This will, however, entirely tap John Elden out.
Friedman attacking for 5 will knock him to 5, and he'll be facing a 1-turn clock. I'm so glad these bug decks aren't considered land still decks anymore.
Right there with you.
Standstill was it's a very popular card that probably doesn't deserve its popularity.
I entirely agree, and I've been preaching that for many couple years now at this point. Another 5 coming in from Samuel Friedman. Yeah,
I was hoping that was like a Consecrated Sphinx or something sweet.
And we saw this actually with one of the Star City Games events where Drew Levin and Jerry Thompson came with a blue-white Standstill deck, very controlling, and the next week they came back, and they both did great. They both placed very, very highly in that tournament, and the next week they came back, had their Standstills in their trade binders, or wherever they keep their cards, probably not trade binders.
Jerry Thompson's trade binder is sweet.
And replaced it with Ancestral Vision, which seems to me to be a much better card for a deck that isn't likely to put anything on the table.
Now these days, Snapcaster Mage does enough that people don't even want the visions anymore. It's just fighting over Jace. So, Friedman going for the lethal attack.
And this is perhaps it. Oh,
No.
the V-click.
No, he would have played Batter Skull if he had nothing else, but the Vendilion Click, I guess, gives him mana to fight over it.
Once again, Kyle Cornwell.
The problem with this line, though, is that Creeping Tar Pit will knock him low enough.
Yeah, Samuel
Batter Skull can't even win anymore.
Samuel might not care. Just, okay, cool, he traded with my Mishra's Factory.
Kyle Cornwell.
There it is, the trade.
All right, then we have 1 open seat in a draft. If you want to draft,
And there's the card that does matter, a Path to Exile.
Please come to the side event stage. 1 open seat.
Good order of operations here. Blocking first, before starting the fight over the path on the Tar Pit.
There are 2 counterspells in Samuel Friedman's deck. Does he have another?
Dun dun dun.
Or will he succumb to the lure of card advantage? Don't succumb, Sam.
He needs another basic land, like he needs a hole in his head.
Spell Pierce.
Well, this is an interesting one. What do you think his angle is on this?
Maybe have his opponent tap, and then he Snapcasters and cast the Spell Pierce again, and then have another one? Or maybe a Flusterstorm in his main deck. He does have 1 Flusterstorm main.
Yep. One Flusterstorm would be hot.
Boom! There it is.
Good read.
That Storm on Flusterstorm does make it hard to fight. Goodbye, Path to Exile. Trade, Vendilion Click versus Mishra's Factory. 3 damage from the Creeping Tar Pit. It will come in next turn and be a unblockable monster.
Does Elden have a way to stop the Tar Pit? And do we know, is he actually at 4 or is he at 1? He is at 1.
No.
Thought so. Alright. The showdown in Motown is about to go down. Creeping Tar Pit, I suspect, will not be scared off.
And the turn, yet another Ashcoat Bear. There's a Brainstorm in there, though, so it gets some value. Does it resolve? Spell Pierce on the Brainstorm.
Sure.
Now
this leaves 2 lethal threats.
2 answers are required by John.
Picturing a Vendilion Click on himself, hoping to draw a Path of Plow or a Snapcaster Mage.
You get a Snapcaster for Plow.
Just a Snapcaster for Path is like,
yeah.
Does the ticket, right? Does the trick. I think I might have just saved the Snapcaster to use as a counterspell against the inevitable Snords to Plowshares or Path or Snapcaster.
No cards. Well, 1 card now in Samuel's hand. In they come. Boom. Part 1. Wow.
Elden packs it in.
Wow.
We're going to game 2.
Oh boy, did he? Oh, look at that. Samuel's like, woo. That was a close one. That raft was going back and forth for a second there. Don't know what's going to happen. To the sideboards, we talked earlier about the sideboards. One of the things we talked about, John Elden on our left, playing the Stoneblade deck. Flusterstorm, Wasteland, Sword of Feast and Famine, Vendilion Click, places for him to go. If he really, really wants to, he could put in Path to Exile, but I don't know that that's actually the fight he wants to be going for here. Other side of the table, I believe we're saying Flusterstorm, Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is a great weapon in this.
Garruk Relentless, I think, is going to give him another nice angle of attack. It's just, I mean, it's another source of card advantage that's a little bit hard for John to interact with, but it also, I mean, somebody's got to kill the Stoneforge Mystic, and it does put some pressure on him. One other possibility, I don't know if he'll go that far, but you can never tell with people who sideboard Surgical Extraction. There are people who sideboard Surgical Extraction against anybody, so we might see that here.
Right. Now, one of the places I actually do kind of find some value of Surgical Extraction, aside from the really obvious things as direct graveyard hate.
Like Snapcaster Mage?
Well, I'm not actually that excited about the Snapcaster
No, I'm
fight.
saying against it.
Oh, yeah. Is against other decks like Rug Delver. Rug Delver often only has Tropical Island as its only green source, so a Wasteland of a Tropical Island followed by a Surgical Extraction can sometimes be lights out for the vast majority of the creatures in the Rug Delver deck. So I definitely have seen that happen and watched the Rug Delver players kind of crumple. But at the same time, that is not a very exciting plan if they get a second Tropical Island in play before you can get it going.
You know, Samuel Friedman's deck has 1 Tropical Island in it and no other sources of green.
Thankfully for him, he's not very heavily leading on his green here. I mean, we almost can call this bug. Just so little green. What was the Anna is the name of the invasion block quasi tribe for black blue green?
There's the Anna Volver, Seed Evolver,
yep.
Degavolver, Necrovolver, and Rockavolver.
Raka is my favorite sounding one of that for the USA colors, or France if you're of that persuasion.
Yep. I think they're going to have to rename some of the wedges, though. I don't think Anna is going to catch on.
I agree.
It's too tough to end with the vowel like that.
And also, the people are like, I'm playing Anna. Just, it sounds a little strange.
Unlike Rekka.
Rekka
sounds like I'm wrecking you,
yeah.
yo. Like, yeah.
It sounds
like Rex. You know?
It sounds kind of tough. Like Grixis sounds kind of tough.
Who was it earlier that was talking about how Grizzlebrand sounds like a brand of like, is it like a dog bone, like a dog toy, or like?
That was me.
That is amazing. Our director Jesse Snyder with the awesome commentary on Grizzlebrand.
No,
there.
I mean, I agree. If I were naming a brand of like dog chew toy, get your doggy some Grizzlebrand. That's right. You too can have a Hound of Grizzlebrand with Grizzlebrand brand dog chew toys.
Turn 1, Relic of Progenitus.
Yeah. Samuel Friedman, fetching. Nice thing about this Relic of Progenitus, is that the opportunity cost is low. It potentially can help limit shenanigans with Life from the Loam or Snapcaster Mage, but for the most part, it's just kind of, I mean, mainly Snapcaster Mage. It's a much better surgical extraction for this purpose.
Inquisition of Kozilek, he gets to see a Swords to Plowshares and 3 mana and a Jace. The Sword's going away, the rest staying around.
Swords is definitely better than Path to Exile in this matchup, but still not a superstar.
Relic taking out the graveyard of Samuel Friedman 1 card at a time. Wasteland then filling it up with the only land Sam has so far.
Friedman drawing Thoughtseize.
Yep. Sam fetching.
Now, we saw last game Friedman trying to sculpt the game to a spot where he could stick a Jace the Mind Sculptor. What's John Elden trying to do?
John's usual plan with his deck is to drop a Stoneforge Mystic, get some scary equipment, and then at leisure put it into play. Typically that's a Batterskull, but after sideboarding, it could very well be a Sword of Feast and Famine in this matchup. That said, both players have 3 Jace the Mind Sculptor, so simply putting down a Jace fight can be another line that this match goes down. That Thoughtseize on the Jace, taking a little bit of the wind out of John's hand here.
So Friedman with a Tropical Island and Underground Sea, after having last turn successfully Thoughtseized the Jace the Mind Sculptor he knew Elden had after Inquisitioning the Swords to Plowshares. Elden plays his 3rd land, has an island, a tundra, and a flooded strand, with the Relic of Progenitus kind of ticking away at the graveyard.
Again, we see the aggressive end-of-turn Snapcaster Mage simply for the body.
Friedman, no stranger to the Ashcoat Bears. Why don't these people play Gataxian Probe? This is all they ever do with the Snapcasters is just get busy. All right, so are we going to see a fight over the Ashcoat Bear?
I hope so.
Can't be too big of a fight. I mean, Elden had nothing but land in his hand last turn. It's interesting when your deck's full of Spell Pierces and Flusterstorms, just how good creatures end up being. Creatures becomes into playability so that Plow doesn't beat them. Dude, I loved a Mole Drifter, one of these guys. Boom!
Mole Drifter.
Yes! Yes, Mole Drifter, yes! Dude, how does anybody in Legacy beat a Thragtusk? Dude, they can't even plow it.
And we see a hand here. Wow, Fluster. Jace, Wasteland, Mishra.
It's quite the Golgari.
That's Mishra's Factory, not Mishra the Mage.
Yeah, Mishra Artificer Prodigy, not making appearance in this matchup. And that's okay. Because, I mean, Mishra's War Machine isn't either, so.
In comes the cannon-armed Tiago Chen. 2 damage. Will Vendilion Click hop in the way? Apparently not. Pernicious Deed from Samuel Friedman.
From the rafters. Now, did he choose the Jace to put on the bottom?
I believe so.
Sounds like a good move.
Bury the Jace. In for 3 from the Vendilion Click. John Elden, a slightly faster clock here. But that Mishra's Factory does separate it up to 4 versus 3 as opposed to 3 versus 2.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see these Jace battles in Legacy. Jace, a much more popular card. You don't really see people play Necropotence in Legacy that much anymore. Jace the Mind Sculptor being the preferred method of card drawing, with Grizzlebrand following up behind it.
Wasteland.
All right, is he gonna? I mean, is it is it even worth trying to constrict the mana supply? I mean, at this point, he probably just wants to try to draw into some more land of his own.
Yeah.
Because what he really wants, I mean, first, he'd love to kill that Vendilion Click, but what he really wants is to try to stick a Jace, right?
Yeah. A Nihil Spellbomb. And then activate the Mishras. Here we come. 4 damage coming towards you.
I mean, this is a race. This counts as a race.
Snapcaster would be an awesome card from John Elden right now. Hey! And now that will perhaps pull the trigger for Samuel Friedman on this Spellbomb. And it does. The trigger is pulled. Goodbye, Graveyard. And draw a card for 1 black mana.
So Snapcaster Mage, good creature or greatest creature ever? Like, it's the best creature in Magic, right? But is it better than every creature in every other game? Because it's obviously the best creature in Magic. But, like, I don't know how it compares to, like, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh!
I don't know. I bet you that there are some games that have a better creature in them.
Like what? Name one creature in any other game as good as Snapcaster Mage.
You know, I would have to think about it. I'm thinking about some Ascension heroes. Are heroes creatures?
Do they attack and block?
They do attack.
Do they attack and block?
They do not block.
Do they have toughness and power?
No.
Okay. All right. So, another Snapcaster Mage block we see on the Mishra's Factory. They trade, but Friedman's Snapcaster of his own gets through. Elden still has a relic.
In with the Vendilion Click, Friedman's life total dropping more rapidly here than Elden's.
Yep, Friedman knocked to 10. It's tough when your opponent knows how many Flusterstorms you have.
That's 2. Flusterstorm, not good in a fight versus basically permanents.
Dude, why don't these guys play like Glenelender Archmage? Doesn't that seem so hot?
Glenelender is awesome.
Absolutely.
And Stoneforge Mystic, and that works.
I guess by the time you spend 4 mana, you can just get another Jace. But
there we see Sword of Feast and Famine.
So are we pretty close to seeing Pernicious Deed itself actually get activated?
I think so. In for 2.
The thing is he sure that this, like, is the sword for sure better than Batterskull? Because like with Batterskull, he could play around the deed, right? But I don't know.
I'm not sure either. We finally see the relic pitched away for 1 mana to get a card for John Elden.
Is Friedman actually at 13?
He's at 10.
He's at 10.
Caracas from John Elden in for 4.
Wow. Caracas makes the Pernicious Deed significantly less exciting of a play.
Remember, Vendilion Click, a legend.
Woohoo!
Wasteland on Caracas. And John allows it. Then the deed trades the board away.
Trade the board away. Trade the board away. John with another Stoneforge Mystic. This time fetching Batterskull. Friedman's gonna need some more land. Brainstorm. Will he find what he's looking for? It's 2 back. Plays a 4th land.
John Elden, Stoneforge Mystic in play. 2 equipment in hand.
So he's probably going to lead with the Batterskull first, right?
Seems like a powerful start. And in response to the activation, we see a Vendilion Click. Oh, okay, there they are. Which one does Samuel Friedman like less? It is the Batterskull. However, a Stoneforge Mystic waits in John's hand to reclaim that Batterskull should he choose.
Wait, does it even help to put Batterskull on the bottom?
It slows things down a little bit.
But don't you, like, he also has Vendilion Click in his hand. Like, if he Stoneforges, he's just going to whiff, but now he's going to actually hit. Whereas if you take the Vendilion Click, you can actually keep the only counterplay you have.
And Click kills Click and has a triggered ability for John Elden. See these Flusterstorms?
You can keep those.
I have a feeling that Samuel will be losing a Flusterstorm fairly soon here. Equip. Attack. This is reminiscent of something from not so long ago. Untap.
You want Callblade?
That would be it. These Stoneblade decks. Wow. He naturally drew the... Okay, that's it.
So we go to game 3.
Magic players Robbie Lamas and Austin Karazinski. Please come to the main event stage.
No, this doesn't seem like the type of matchup where going on the second causes you to sideboard, or being on the play causes you to sideboard any differently than being on the draw. But still just going to see lots of interactive elements and a certain chess match between the two. Friedman playing a bug good stuff deck that basically just revolves around Snapcaster Mage, mostly just getting Jace in play, but with Deed as his primary control element. A ton of counter spells, a few creature removal spells, and some clicks and Snapcasters for an additional proactive element. And the proactive element combined with cards like Mishra's Factory and Creeping Tarpon is actually super important because in a lot of these matchups you can't really take an iron grip. Like, you can't take a full control of the game. You don't have anything like counterbalance to completely lock them out. So sometimes you just want to put some pressure on your opponent and whittle away at their life total during the period of time where you're actually ahead of them. On the other side, John Elden playing a blue-white Stoneblade deck. A lot of similarities to, like, you might imagine a blue-white control deck, but for the most part, he just needs lots of interaction to try to steer the game in a direction that allows him to use some of his hallmark equipment, like Jitte, Batterskull, or Sword of Feast and Famine, to take over a game. Now, that Sword of Feast and Famine is out of the sideboard. Main deck, he's just relying on Jitte and Batterskull, but this is certainly one matchup where the Jitte is not nearly as effective. Although it's still reasonable. I mean, you could still lock somebody out with it, but it's probably just not worth it. Both players using tons of counterspells and library manipulation, and just trying to keep the other person's Jace off the table. Inquisition taking a Vendilion Click because the Vendilion Click could potentially take a Jace out of his own hand. 2 Snapcasters in the graveyard may not look like much, but if there's anything I've learned about Ashcott Bear Beatdown, it's that that's the Legacy format in a nutshell. Plus, he might draw a Brainstorm or a Ponder at any point. Friedman drops 2nd mana. A lot of people underestimate the lands like Drowned Catacombs, you know, the M10 and Innistrad lands in Legacy. It's kind of nice that it's another dual land you can play. I mean, he's already playing 4 Underground Seas, obviously, but it's another dual land you can play that doesn't do damage to you like Watery Grave would. On the flip side, you see the Scars lands too, like Darkslick Shores. Darkslick Shores sees a lot of play in decks that want an extra Underground Sea, just because of its ability to come into play untapped, like if they're playing a combo deck. So Friedman, Snapcasters, and Inquisitions again, this time hitting another Vendilion Click.
This is a new thing for Friedman. Getting value out of the Snapcaster. I think, is that the first time he's done that this match?
Very possible.
And a Thoughtseize drawn by Friedman. Fetching first. Very fetching.
It's a tropical island. What do you think about lands like Drowned Catacombs and Darkslick Shores in Legacy?
I mean, if you're using them as a 5th land, or if you're using... Yep, then I have no problem with that. I mean... Oh my god, Jace hits.
Yep.
Oh.
Multiple discard spells ensure
Wow.
that John had basically just a 1-turn window to draw
And
some counter magic.
Sam uses the plus ability to scry himself.
I mean, I guess he was playing around Vendilion Click,
Playing around Vendilion Click.
but I don't know. It's like he's already played 2 Vendilion Clicks. I'd play around Jace and just brainstorm. But what do I know about Jace the Mind Sculptor? John Elden with a Plains, a Glacial Fortress, and 2 Islands. I love to see, by the way, Glacial Fortress versus Drowned Catacombs. That's just awesome. Both Jaces bite it and end up in the bin. Friedman brainstorming, looking to stick another Jace to the Mind Sculptor.
You know, and as you bring those things up too, just that access to a choke-free source of mana is so good. And we see the hand again. Snappy, snappy, swords, force of will.
There's just one Snapcaster, right? No, there is two.
There's two, yeah.
2 Snapcasters, force of will and a plow. He takes one of the Snapcaster mages, wanting to just put a dent into the card advantage to come. And plays another Thoughtseize and takes the other Snapcaster mage.
Ouch.
Because, you know, why not? Jeez, and does he play an Inquisition also and takes the Swords to Plowshares?
You know, the cards are covered up by our names down there in the lower right-hand corner, but something happened there. It probably had to be one of those
I think
cards.
it was 2 Thoughtseizes and an Inquisition of Kozilek, ripping any counterplay.
Oh,
3
C's.
You know, that's a lot of discard. That's a lot of life for a good cause.
Look at those basic lands over there. John Elden, not afraid of a back to basics right now.
Man, that would be sick if that's in his range.
4 for the Jace. Better than all.
Spell Pierce.
Brainstorm.
Okay.
Looking. He's looking.
Okay. All right.
Oh, the Flusterstorm
Come
won't do it.
on, Jace. Come on.
Counterspell
Jace.
will do it.
And he counterspells the Jace. No, he does.
And to the next. In for 2.
The race is on. Snapcaster Mage versus nothing. But he knows John has his force of will, so now he's going to have to keep that in mind. Oh, he's probably going to move Mishra's Factory.
Mishra's Factory is pretty good.
While you're sitting here doing nothing, your opponent has a force of will. Mishra's Factory. Mishra's Factory.
Bring the elbow.
Absolutely.
There it is. In for 2, Mishra's Factory, making this a 3-turn clock instead of a 5-turn clock.
So what do you think of this blue-white deck with no wastelands?
Shocking. I don't know anymore what the mainstream choice is with wastelands. It's one of those things that changes back and forth. It is very mana hungry itself, so a lot of times losing a land to make your opponent lose a land is a rough proposition. So maybe it's absolutely correct. I really like wastelanding control decks.
1 Riptide Lab, 2 Mishra's Factories, and 1 Caracas as his special sauce outside of a basic plains for non-blue lands.
Pernicious Deed is out there. A Swords to Plowshares hits the Mishra's Factory. A flurry of activity in for 2. 4 more turns for Sam, and he'll have this. And
Elden, meanwhile, looking for a Snapcaster Mage.
Your pairings for the second round are with your judge.
Stoneforge Mystic.
How do you feel about Mystic? Oh, and it works.
He will tell you who to pay
It's
for
pretty good.
round 2. Please find him to find your match.
5 life.
Fetches a Batterskull. Snapcaster Mage continues to bring the business. Daring the Stoneforge Mystic to jump in front of him. Do it. Want you to. Another Jace. Does Elden have a blue card? He does. And he force wills the Jace. So Elden down to 3, but with a Batterskull coming down, there might not be an end in sight.
The forward momentum that Samuel Friedman has been trying to push through here could be over right now.
And he is actually at 3 now because of the force will. Is that correct?
2. Oh, wow.
Is he at 1 now because of the Scalding Tarn? 14-1.
Wow. We saw a 17-1 comeback yesterday. Michael Jacobs showed us how to do it round 1 of the standard yesterday. Will John follow in Michael Jacobs' capable footsteps?
Friedman would love like a Vendilion click or something to surprise him. But what he really needs is to figure out an answer to that Batterskull, because if he doesn't have a Vendilion click to use in response to the Stoneforge's ability.
There we go. Stoneforge does the block. And then, in response, activates. Does Samuel have any responses? Apparently not. There it is, Batterskull in play. And these two casting cost creatures trade with each other.
Tables are definitely starting to turn. Batterskull is a big game.
And he says go. He's upkeep. Hit for 5, forcing the Batterskull back to the hand. John Elden with 1 life left and 2 of his mana remaining for this turn.
Friedman playing a Nile Spellbomb. Do we have any idea the amount of clock that they have left? Because they're in some serious time constraints. Elden. Drawing a card. Is he going to go for it? Is he going to commit Batterskull? It's his only blue chip right now, but he's under a serious time crunch.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Is this a Spell Pierce? It is not.
What you got, Sam? Fetching.
Gonna see a Vendilion click. You're not.
Wow.
Is that Jace?
Better than all? Better than all?
Germ. It is a tough way to do it, to try to power your germ through a Jace.
Jace cannot suffer that germ to live. John Elden, only 1 mana available. There exist no cards in his deck that can stop the Jace from resolving since he's at 1 life. Bounce on the germ.
They have 3 minutes left. So Friedman now in a commanding position. But can he win in time? His opponent's at 1. But he's going to need a creature with a power.
Brainstorm effect.
Mishra's Factory, threatening lethal. Now Elden's going to need some kind of removal spell, because replaying the Batterskull alone will not be enough, since Jace can just bounce it. So, Vendilion click hitting the table. Put Spell Pierce on the bottom. Do you think we're going to see Batterskull move over to equip the Vendilion click?
With 2 cards in hand. Oh no.
It appears not.
Nope. About to say that would be all the Eggywigs, but it might be worth it. Vendilion click finishing off the Jace. A Mishra's Factory hanging out. A Mishra's Factory of John Elden's own to potentially answer that. A Batterskull.
Quite the back and forth.
Wow.
Exciting series of turns. So that Vendilion click is also a seal of Vendilion click, effectively ensuring that Friedman can't surprise Elden with a Vendilion click to deal the final point of damage. Friedman plays a Snapcaster Mage. But does he have a removal spell? He goes with Brainstorm. Oh no, I guess not. Friedman wants to take a look, see what he's got in his grip. So Elden with a Factory, a Vendilion Click, and a Batter Skull, plus 20 mana, versus a Mishra's Factory, a Snapcaster, 20 mana, and card in hand. Vendilion Click and Batter Skull with a Germ attack. Samuel Friedman, Snapcaster Mage, jumps in the way of the Germ. It's too bad he doesn't have access to sweet Type 2 technology like Vapor Snag to prevent the lifelink.
And the life gain from that Batter Skull brings John Elden out of the danger zone. John Elden also has 9 power in play. Should we get to extra turns, John will potentially be able to close this game out.
A very exciting comeback. Talk about a game with a lot of back and forth. You know, we joke, but the truth is there's been lots of little battles, lots of fighting for inches, some blowouts back and forth.
Yeah.
But even now, the game is very much up for anybody's grabs, you know?
5-9. John Elden hoping to reverse that.
Now we're in turns.
Extra turns 1, starting right now.
So Elden definitely has a strong position on the board, but he has to win in 2 turns, right?
2-4. It's possible. Vendilion Click once again. Flusterstorm, Tropical Island, leave it.
So Elden untaps. He's got lethal if he can deal with that Mishra's Factory. But even if he can't, he's got one more attack phase after this, I believe.
Riptide Lab, so good. See him prepping his mana there for the Mishra Factory.
Even if Elden plows the Mishra, Friedman will live another turn. Path to Exile would end it. Doubt that's the battle he's fighting though. So he swings with Vendilion Click and Batter Skull, playing super safe. I think he thinks he's got this one locked up. He knows Friedman's hand has nothing but a Flusterstorm and a Tropical. He's got plenty of mana. As long as he has one more turn, he should be okay.
And after combat, returning the Vendilion Click.
Elects not to Vendilion Click during the draw phase.
A second Mishra's Factory from Samuel Friedman. And
Extends the
throws the hand
In
down.
turns, John Elden with Blue-White Stoneblade defeating Samuel Friedman's Bug Good Stuff deck. Bug Control, I guess.